When installing and aligning a new fender, there's only 3 bolts that you really need to worry about. And that is the one furthest back, the one farthest forward, and the one down at the bottom of the fender. The most important one we have to worry about is the one furthest back at the top nearest to the cowl. So let me put the fender on. We'll just hang it up there. We won't put any bolts in, and I'll show you how that's done. At this point, the fender is just sitting in place. There's no bolts holding it in place. So we're just going to set the fender into place. And the first bolt you're going to worry about is this one furthest back. We're going to set it in the hole and put this exactly where we want it and tighten this bolt fully tightened. So I like that gap, and it's nice and straight. We're going to crank this one down. Alright, now the next bolt that I'm going to worry about is the one at the bottom of the fender, but I'm just going to set this one in the hole to hold it. Now I'm going to worry about the bottom of the fender. So let me move the camera into position so you can see what I'm going to do down there. At the bottom of the fender, when you push it in, the gap is much too wide. So it needs to come back, be pushed back, in, and put the bolt in at the same time. Since I don't have enough hands, I'm going to use a porta-power. So we're just going to take this porta-power and a cushiony block and stick it right here against the tire. And that's going to be pushing my fender back just to where I like it. And that, I think, looks real good right there. Then, all I'm going to do is going to take a pry bar. I'm going to push against this strong part right here. Probably should use a 2x4, but we're just going to push that in like that. Just like that with my shoulder. And I'm going to stick the bolt in there at the same time. So let me get the wrench ready to go. Got the bolt in the hole. The porta-power is pushing the fender back. I'm pushing the fender in with this pry bar. We're going to get it right to where we want it and then tighten that bolt. We get the ratchet on the bolt and about right there. Now the next bolt that we're going to worry about is up front, in the front of the fender. Let me get the camera set up and I'll be back. The last bolt that I'm concerned with is the one all the way to the front of the fender. Now they don't give you much play in that hole, so sometimes you might have to open it up with a tool like this. And once you have that hole opened up and you have a little bit more play, you can shut the hood and see what that gap looks like. So let's shut the hood and make sure it doesn't hit the fender when we shut it. And that gap seems a little bit wide, so I'm going to squeeze it closed. I'm just going to push it in a little bit to where I like it. And then the bolt is a little bit snug, so it'll hold it into place wherever I push it. So I like it right there. I'm going to pop the hood, tighten the bolt, and we should be done. Now we're going to hold it right there in that spot and tighten it down. And that should be good. We'll shut the hood, see what it looks like. And the hood sits just a tad high, but there's a bumper there that you can adjust and adjust that down. So to me that looks really good. I'm going to give you a few shots of the gaps. Once I get the camera set up for that, I'll be back. Now here's a shot of the final gap between the fender and the door. And sometimes you'll notice after you tighten the bolts that the fender might be out or in a little bit more than the door. So I like to use a spoon like this and get where it's real nice and strong here where there's a body line. And the fender was sitting in a little bit, so I'm just going to pry that out until it's nice and even. And you can do that all the way down. And that's pretty good for me. So let me set the camera up in another spot so you can see the hood fender gap. Lastly, here's a shot of the fender and hood gap. And I think that looks pretty straight. Only thing left to do is put in your remaining bolts, tighten it all down, and you're finished. I hope you enjoyed this video on replacing and aligning a new aftermarket fender. And if you did, and you'd like to get my latest videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.